Hi, my name is Tanya. I am someone who researches and studies the laws of the universe. I do my best to understand the language that is the universe. To simplify how I experience the universe is God, who man has named God. So, in knowing this, I know that God is not this magic genie who chooses um, to play favorites, or he's fair. And that's because logic is God. um, so, logic, if you have logic and you don't have God, right? You don't have just this person, you have this reality. So I'm going to write some things down. So you have God, who is energy, not just one. You've got to realize that human beings are not superior, right? We are an evolved issue. So, what happens is the universe begins as energy. Stephen Hawking called it the Big Bang Theory. So let's go there. We have the Big Bang Theory. Now, the Big Bang Theory is the universe became from a big explosion. Then we have this guy that worked with Stephen Hawking named Thomas Hertog, and he believes in multiverses. So if we have multiverses, meaning there are other worlds, other universes, and then we go to the Bible, and the Bible was written by man. And so if the Bible was written by man, then its interpretation was not conclusive. It did not explain why. It did not explain why would God do those things. You know, I went to a priest one time and asked him some things, and he said that he was afraid of God. So then I know that people that are religious are fearful of God. Now, if you're fearful of someone, that means they're not fair, they're not logical. So then I went back to physics and tried to figure out why physicists who are very smart aren't afraid of God, but they're afraid of aliens. Stephen Hawking said that if there were aliens, they'd be much smarter than us and we'd be in trouble. Now, I'm going to tell you who the aliens are. The aliens are any energy that are hypocritical of their own logic. So then you have people who talk about the law of attraction. The law of attraction, what would the law of attraction be? You know, people go, you can manifest money. Well, there's a lot to that. If you're going to manifest money, money itself experiences a process to become money. First, there has to be rain, there has to be soil. So, those two things experience the energy of greed. The more money you want, the more work someone else has to do, the more rain has to fall, the more soil has to be irrigated. All of these things have to occur for you to have more money. Now they have cryptocurrency, which is using electricity, which means you have more energy, which means you have more greed, which means you have more chaos. So as I observe these physicists spewing out all of these analogies to talk about reality, I'm like, they're excluding themselves from the equations. They're excluding their personal lives. They're excluding their judgments and their hypocrisies. They're excluding what they're wearing. They're excluding what they ate for lunch. They're excluding their childhoods. They're excluding everything. If you're energy and you take new form, that means whatever you left behind, which is duality, whatever you leave behind is there for you to experience from a different perspective. So, for me, intention can go backward, right? It doesn't necessarily go backward. It allows you to go back to find where you were before to figure out how you got to where you were. So for me, the easiest way for me to do this is I was Isaac Newton. So if I was Isaac Newton, then I figure out, okay, he has an equation. He has a birth date. He has a date of death. He has addresses that he lived at, schools that he went to, people that he was related to, life occurrences, personal preferences, solidarity, sexual opinions. He has all of those things that I can utilize to better understand the psychology, the logic, and create a conclusive equation based on the math that he has. It has to align with mine. There has to be a logical explanation for why I'm a female now and why I am not an educated physicist, but I am a natural physicist. And I'm probably going to be very helpful to science. So, anyway, in 2018, I'm going to show you a simple equation. In 2018, Stephen Hawking passed away. Now, I'm going to explain my life briefly with dates, numbers, times, birth dates. My birthday is 7/3/1963. So here you have my birthday, which is 7/3/1963. So because I'm going to circle the 19 because Isaac Newton wasn't born in the 1900s. So I'm going to circle the 19. I was Marilyn Monroe. Now, I was Marilyn Monroe because, firstly, Isaac Newton had opinions about sexuality and promiscuity, but I was also Leonardo da Vinci. So Leonardo da Vinci was writing this code, the Da Vinci Code, but he was this incredible artist, right? Everything looked as it was supposed to look. But me, I'm this kind of artist. I paint things before they happen, but I paint things in a very different kind of way. Like in that painting, there are hundreds of paintings. They're teeny tiny paintings. But then you have the swans, and then you have a theory called Swan's Way, right? So then I would research that, and I research everything. So you have 7/3/1963. Then you have Marilyn Monroe, 6/1/1926. So I'm circling that again. So far, what are perfect measurements? 36, 24, 36, right? You have 36, 24, 36. Marilyn Monroe was considered this bombshell. Now, that word becomes part of this equation because what happens is, as Stephen described it, the universe was like a big explosion. Now, also, diamonds are a girl's best friend. Every single word we speak becomes our reality in our next life. It's like taking all of the words and creating a different story, but the storyline is the same. Marilyn Monroe passed away on August 4th, 1962. However, her body was found on August 5th, 1962. Right? So I gave birth to a daughter on August 5th, 1992. So then you'd have this again, right? 92. So then you take the 9 and the 2. My son Noah passed away 9. They found his body on the 22nd, but the last day I heard from him was the 20th. And the coroners have not given me an exact time of passing. So we have all of these numbers. These numbers create an equation that tell you, yes, in fact, this is a conclusive equation that explains a story. But it's our addresses, our phone numbers, my credit cards. The numbers on my credit cards are the birth dates of my children, the deaths of people. They tell a story. Every time I get a new card, I am like looking at the numbers now going, what is this telling me? So, and then the date you get the card, every single thing tells you this story. Every movie you watch, every song you listen to. In the 80s, there was this song called I'll Stop the World and Melt with You. It was one of my favorite songs. I still love that song. Now, I'll stop the world and melt with you. The letter I, apostrophe LL. It doesn't say I will stop the world. It's I'll stop the world and melt with you. So, melt. Melting is the process they use when they make surgical masks. Okay, now the word stop we would have to research. Firstly, I would research and find out when that word first made it into the dictionary. Who is the person responsible for putting that word in the dictionary? Then I would research their numbers. See, that's why they can't figure this out, because it's not a math equation that is conclusive, because it's continually, the past allows you to predict now. What happens now allows you to predict what will happen in the future. But what happened in the past doesn't go all the way to the end. That's called entanglement. That is free will. That is the ability to change the course of reality. However, reality is going to end up the way reality is going to end up. It can be a peaceful experience or a chaotic experience. Right now, it's a chaotic experience because there's in science this person they speak of who understands how the universe works. And they built this elaborate machine costing millions and millions, but actually, it costs more than that. It costs trillions and trillions of dollars because every bit of science that occurred before that machine, every time they invented something and money went into it, and money goes into the government, and money goes into anything. Money used to be made of cotton, and I have ink all over me. But money used to be made of cotton, and now linen. I don't know what it's made of right now. Today, I don't know because they're making more of it. So I have no idea what they're doing. However, what happens is when you change the laws, you change reality. Because whoever broke those laws before that got punished for it, and now they're like, oh, we don't have those laws anymore. We're going to change them. So that guy's like, it's like buying something on sale. You're like, but that guy got it for, why is it on sale this week? Why is Good Friday happening? Why are we getting it on sale today? And everybody's like pushing and shoving and punching and being hateful right before the celebratory day of Christ. And they're just being evil, just like they were to Christ. Like, it doesn't stop, right? And these are people that I guarantee if you walk into a sale, they're going to be all people going, holy blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. You can't respect someone by disrespecting others. It's illogical. So the more you pray, the less you get answered. And I'm going to tell you how that works. When you pray for someone who's paying for a sin, you're saying, hey, universe, I'd like to let that person get away with that sin. I don't want them to pay. I want you to pay. Thanks, by the way, for paying for my sins. And then I want you to put that guy in prison for being mean to me. But I'm going to punish my child for not being home from school when they're supposed to be home. All of that creates a reality. Because you know what I heard? I heard, firstly, you're going to punish your child for not being where they are. Are you where you're supposed to be? None of us are, really. I wasn't born in Los Angeles. I was born in Northern California. So, but I didn't move me from Northern California to a different part of Northern California. But I did move me from Northern California to Guam, to Southern California then after. So I made those decisions beyond the age of 18. So up until then, my mom didn't really break too many rules. You know what I'm saying? I put myself in a different demographic. So in doing so, that's me not acknowledging that God has a natural way of placing us and looking the way I look and being the way I am. Had I stayed, had I gone to college, had I not had relations before I got married, had I not done any of the things that I did, my life would have been very different. But I still would have experienced the same lack of understanding of myself by making decisions that were against my natural intention. So for me, I have a really difficult time doing things that I don't want to do. And I can become very resentful And I had to figure out where that came from. I couldn't blame it on anybody anymore because I knew it was there before I was even born. And it took me a lot of research and a lot of soul searching and a lot of asking God questions. Now, I would ask God questions and I'd be answering them in my head myself. And I realized that I was a hypocrite. And then I had this energy say, if you can show me a better way, I'll do it. And I tried. I thought, well, God, if you give everybody the same, then and he's showing me, okay, if I give you all the same, that doesn't mean everybody's going to stay the same. And it means animals still have to die. And then he showed me something else. That my dog was a human in her past life. That I was a dog in another life. That I've been a cow. That I've been a moose. That I've been an elephant. That I've been a giraffe. I've been cockroaches. I've been spiders. But so have all of you. So then he showed me how I treat those creatures is how my family is treated. If a pet gets sick, one of us gets sick. If a pet has something going on with their ears, one of my children or myself will have something going on with their ears. Everything that occurs in my life occurs through my children also. They say you're born into the sins of your parents. So I try to figure out how to explain that in physics. That's cause and effect. So, and that is in string theory. String theory, to simplify, is a soul. And a soul is like humans have veins and they have all of these different things going on in their bodies. So do animals. Now, our physiology is different, but it accomplishes the same thing: life. It allows us to experience different energies, and how you speak to your pets is how you will be spoken to as a human and as an animal. How you treat your pets is how you'll be treated by the pack when you are an animal. This is reality. So, in knowing this, in knowing I know who two of my pets were, and so by knowing who they were, I can predict what will happen in their children's lives. Well, my dog, I know who her children. She was a man in her past life, and she was a well-known man in her past life. And in this life, her children are in the public, and I had been a part of the circle of, not even circle, the entanglement of these energies throughout my life. And so then I better understand that my dog, whom was a man, the mother of that man was related to me in another life, which means my dog was related to me in another life. That's the theory of relativity. You know, Einstein wrote this theory, and I know Einstein's soul very well, and so do all of you. If you know who Princess Diana was, Albert Einstein was Princess Diana. And Princess Diana was my son Noah. And my son Noah is now someone else. And I have the math to conclude the reality of that being. Now, I was Marilyn Monroe. Now, you don't have to believe it, but just here's an equation. I was Marilyn Monroe. My name was Norma Jean Baker. Now, my grandmother, Vera, she was my favorite grandma. Like, I love my grandma so much. And I was born on my grandparents' wedding anniversary, 7/3. Now, the day Stephen Hawking was passed, I was working at a place called the Dillon, and the address is 7111 Santa Monica Boulevard. So you have 7111. That's 7/3. It can also be 4 7s, or it's 7 minus 1, which would be 6, and then you'd have 63. My son passed away at 63 Lime Street last year. On 9/22 was the day they called me and told me that they had found him with his friend Sophie, and they had passed. Now, he passed at 63 Lime Street in Long Beach. So we have the word long and we have the word beach. Beach is also an airplane. So, and it also represents the sand along water. And what happened after my son passed, there were a bunch of whales that showed up on the beach. Diana was Princess of Wales. Now, what people don't understand is every little detail in reality affects reality. So, knowing that my son was Princess Diana and knowing that I was Marilyn Monroe, I would go to Marilyn Monroe and say, what do Marilyn Monroe and Princess Diana have in common? Well, Marilyn Monroe had a relationship with a guy named Charles Spencer Chaplin. Charles Spencer Chaplin. Diana was born 7/1, 1961. '61, the number 6 and the number 1 are Marilyn Monroe's birthday. So every single number has to tell a story in all of this equation. So then you would have the number 9 and 6, right? So 6 represents birth. So then I was born 7/3, and then you have the number 6, which represents birth. And like I said, my grandmother was my favorite person. And then you would go 6 and 3. My granddaughter Maxine was born on June 3rd. And my son passed away on between 9/20 and 9/22. My son was 22 years old. He passed away in 2020. That's also the number 22. And Thomas Hertog is releasing his book on 7/7/2022. It's intentional on his part. I've given him all of my notes that I felt like giving him, and he is very aware that I sent Stephen Hawking these numbers. Now, Stephen Hawking passed away on Albert Einstein's birthday. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story, and this is about Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking adored Marilyn Monroe, but he didn't understand why he adored Marilyn Monroe. He had this fascination with her. Now, Marilyn Monroe, the movie Marilyn, was portrayed by an actress whose partner passed away when she accepted the role of Marilyn. Why would that happen? It aligned because she was with Heath Ledger, and Heath Ledger portrayed the Joker. And what happens is, this is called duality and entanglement. This is all of these things in motion. So what I do is I try to find the stillness in the motion. The stillness are the numbers. And the numbers are the only thing that stays still. And that allows you to complete an equation. Intention is always changing. Princess Diana died when she was 36. Marilyn Monroe died when she was 36. My son was born in May, and I turned 36 in July. So before he turned 1 year old, I was 36. When Prince Harry was 36, Noah passed away. When Meghan Markle was 36, she gave birth to their first child. All of these numbers create a conclusive equation. The things that Harry experienced, Noah experienced when he was a child because of duality. He experienced based on the loss of his mother through her intention. What happened was Diana was in love with a heart surgeon, but dated Dodi Fayed to make this heart surgeon take notice of her. And this heart surgeon was from Pakistan. When Diana died, she died literally of a broken heart. Her heart was moved to the other side of her chest. Now, she died from the same car accident that Dodi Fayed died from, but they died at different times. Paris Jackson was Dodi Fayed. Now, my son had received, Noah and Paris were friends, and Paris, People Magazine wrote about Noah through Paris, and Sophia through Paris. And Paris had given Noah some tattoos, and one of them said, "Rest in peace." Now, all of these things are part of an equation. Now, I'm going to tell you this part of the equation. I was working at 7111 Santa Monica Boulevard, and I looked out the window. Now, I'm going to draw a picture, and then I'll show it to you. There was a moving truck on this side of the road over here to my left, and it said Prodigy. Now, these are things I notice that you guys probably don't notice. And outside, ramp coming out of it. Behind that moving truck were cars 2 cars. And they were Mini Coopers, 2 different kinds. I have the video, it's on my Facebook. So there were 2 cars and they were Mini Coopers. Now here I am in this building. And this building is 7111 Santa Monica Boulevard. But I'm at the side of the building looking out. And this is the street. And over here, there are 2 Mini Coopers. Sorry, I'm doing this backwards. And then over here is an alley. But coming out of this building over here, actually, I should have driven, the Mini Cooper should be closer, further over. But there's, coming out over here, the Mini Cooper should be over here. I just messed up. But there was a ramp coming out. So this had a ramp coming out of it that was leaving, but the Prodigy was in the container, right? I am in a building working for a guy named Scott. I was working for a guy named Scott. And as I was working for a guy named Scott, Scott got a pay rent or quit notice on the 4th of that month, March 4th. And this is 2018. And I was working at 711 Santa Monica Boulevard, and the name of the place is called The Dillon. Right? So we have Dillon, we have Scott, we have 7111 Santa Monica Boulevard, and we have 4 Mini Coopers. But over here, next to the building, there's a McDonald's. And I had a Mini Cooper parked behind McDonald's. So I had a Mini Cooper parked behind McDonald's. Marilyn Monroe's handprints are on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in front of McDonald's, between McDonald's and Ripley's Believe It or Not. And in March, on Ripley's Believe It or Not, there's a dinosaur and there's a giant shamrock. Now, there's a place I used to go to on Sunset Boulevard called Dublin's, which was an Irish pub. And across the street, it used to be the Roxbury, which also means rocks, berry. So we have Stephen Hawking. I looked out the window and this car left. And I said, someone in science who's in my way is leaving. Now, I had written Mr. Hawking in February. And on March 1st, he presented his final theory with, I have proof. And that's because I sent him these numbers. Now, even if he didn't see the numbers, which he did, but even if he didn't see the numbers, the fact that I wrote him allowed his calculations to know it was time to open his mailbox. And he would have known based on, he already knew that I existed, but he didn't know how to find me to prove that everything he had already, all the data he had was true. All he had to do was find out my birth date, my children's birth dates, and then he had access to my school records, my social, even though I gave it to him. He had access to all of this information. And it took him 2 weeks to get all that data compiled, and he found out who I was. He was enamored with Marilyn Monroe because I was Marilyn Monroe, and I would help him die knowing that he was right. He just wanted to know. He just wanted to understand. And right now he's a dog. And he's very happy. He's a happy guy. But he will come back as a human again, and he will experience life from a different perspective. The things that he predicted will become part of his new family. And that's not such a great thing, because he's going to lose someone that he loved very much. And sorry, I'm looking at my Poshmark. Someone's asking me a question. So anyway, I sold my house on March 4th, 2014. Stephen Hawking passed on March 14th, 2018. So all the numbers are conclusive. Now we get to the Dylan. This shows you how everything is connected. So the Dylan, Luke Perry, Luke, I am not your father. So Luke Perry, even that, then Chewbacca passed away, and all of these people, it starts telling you a story. So here I am, paying attention to reality, learning the language. People are thinking I'm insane, and I'm not, and no one is. There isn't an insane person in the world in the clinical form of insanity. Everyone is telling the truth. They're just afraid of the truth that they're telling, and that creates the animosity. And what happens is a therapist in another life will be called insane. They will be called everything they've thought of their patients. Every doctor will be a patient, and they will be treated like they treat their patients. Every person that tests on animals will be tested on and mutilated in some way, be it surgery. I've been mutilated by having breast augmentation, by having surgery on my... Anytime you have surgery, you're altering a natural occurrence. And so what you're saying is a person that can afford to live has precedent over someone that can't afford to live. And what you don't understand is once you do that, you come back as someone that can't afford to live. And you keep coming back until you can afford to live. And then you create chaos. Like Elon Musk is not doing himself a favor. Firstly, why would you go to the purest form of energy and contaminate it? Why would NASA do it? Why would all of these people do it? They don't understand. They come back and they pay for every bit of energy they take from reality. Meaning, if you say, oh, this poor person, look at this poor person in my photo with me. I'm so nice. I'm taking a picture and I'm giving them something. And then you go and you do a lot of unhealthy, impractical, careless things with your time and your energy, while you pity those who would do things a little differently with just enough. However, let me show you this. All those people that have nothing used to have everything. So do you pity the man that's learning the lesson? Or do you try to figure out a better way for every life to have a better experience? Like my cat. I haven't done all of the math for my cat, but I know he was related to my ex. And I'm fairly certain it was my ex's father. And that's the irony, because he didn't like me. But now I'm the one who takes care of him. And the thing is his energy he'll experience my moods based on his and how he made me feel. Like I'll tell my cat, I don't want to pet you right now. But I'm very loving to my cat. I'm very kind to my cat. I mean, but if I don't want to pet him, I don't want to pet him. And he's a really friendly cat. He's a kind cat. But he's not like, he's very wants attention kind of cat. So anyway, Luke Perry played Dylan, and Dylan passed away March 4th, 2019. Now, Dylan's children, one of his children was the same age. Both of his children are the same ages of my son and his friend that passed, except for Noah was the same age that Luke Perry's son was when they passed. So it tells me why. And these equations go to birth dates, any number, anything that's documented, every photo you take. Like I've done it. I've gone on people's social media and seen photos they've posted and been able to predict things that will happen in their life based on those photos. And I learned the hard way not to do that. I mean, I told someone that something dark was coming for them, and his father passed, and then he was resentful of me and told me to never contact him again. So I don't contact him, but he doesn't understand that he was related to me and that his wife gave birth to a child that I didn't give birth to. Meaning when we have miscarriages or abortions, those energies are born to someone else. And if they judge you, that judgment falls onto their child. Because that child that you didn't have is someone that either didn't want to be your child, so therefore they weren't your child. Say you say something like, oh my God, I'd rather die than be related to that person. And you have no idea you were supposed to be related to that person. So then you become a person that's not born to them. And then you're born to someone else. And then you would look at them and go, I wish that was my mom or dad. These are the natural laws of judge not lest ye be judged. That's an actual law. It's not a hypothetical. It's not I don't want to believe it. It's there whether you believe it or not. It is logic. So I am not a religious energy. I am a logical energy. So I know those laws are literal. And in knowing that they are literal, I try to understand them because I know I can't change them. And I try to figure out, how can we be better version of reality so that the universe experiences a more peaceful reality. See, if we are the collective physiological experience of God, and God's trying to find peace, as we call it peace, but that doesn't mean it's called peace. If the universe is becoming oneness, like all logic coming together to have one of two things: to be comfortable and accept taking turns and finding the most gracious way to eat, to sleep, to have less, to do less against nature and more for all of reality, meaning our time spent in community of helpfulness. The world would be a more peaceful experience. And the world is getting more and more out of control. People are dying. People are injecting themselves. You know, the process of Botox, I used to get Botox. And one day I was medicated. A doctor had given me medication because I thought I was unstable because people were telling me that I was not normal. And so a doctor prescribed medication for me. And I was like, I had to take an antihistamine because I was having a reaction where I couldn't like catch a breath. Like they described COVID, I like couldn't catch a breath. I was just like breathing in and I didn't know what was going on. So I would take this Benadryl and then like 30 minutes later, I'd be able to fall asleep. So then I tried to get off of this medication and I was on a children's dose, and then they had to compound the one pill that I was taking. And then I was experiencing severe nausea and I was experiencing all kinds of things, but that was because I had had abortions. So whatever you do, you experience. But because many people see, what happens is it's kind of a who is the least judgmental, sins against themselves and others the least, that person gets to create the law. But it can't be intentional. You can't go, oh, I'm going to abstain from this and abstain from, because then that becomes a judgment. It has to be something that comes to you in a natural way. And so even though I understand, that doesn't mean I don't give in. Like I drink soda. Now, the thing is what happens is, like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, before he was Michael Jackson, he was a scientist from Waco, Texas, and he invented Dr. Pepper. And so this would be why Michael was called the king of pop. Now, what happens when you drink a highly caffeinated beverage that used to have cocaine in it? These sodas, Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it. So if you're drinking these amped up versions of sugar, sugar is the number one contributing factor to death. Sugar, processed sugar. So more than drugs. It kills more people than drugs. So then in that case, when we offer our family members cakes and candies and sodas, we're saying, it's all right. You might die from it later, but it's not illegal, and I'm going to give it to you. That evolves into something else. If you start giving people sugar all the time and then you judge someone else who's overweight for having too much sugar, or someone's complexion isn't perfect and you're like, stop eating so much sugar. If you do all of these things, you're going to experience cause and effect. So, and it'll happen to your children, it'll happen to your grandchildren, it'll happen to your pets, it'll happen to you, or you might be watching it happen to everybody and you don't know what's going on. And your payment might be the suffering of not being able to help because you're the one that already put that out there. So as I learn this stuff myself, as I learn a lot, and I have Minnie and Mickey and a Daisy. My dog's name is Daisy. And so these tell me things. So then if I research Daisy, I'll find out other things. Daisy was also on Donald Duck, right? Daisy was the female duck. My very first email was Chicky with a Mind. So I've learned that everything that's happened in my life has been telling me what would happen in my future. When I was a kid, I was in elementary school, and there was a guy named Wayne, and we were in gifted program together, and we used to play cribbage. And just sit there. And his dad had something to do with NASA, or if I recall. So Wayne, Bruce Wayne, is Batman. And I lived in Corona in 2015 after I sold my house. And someone, my ex-boyfriend, was corresponding with his current girlfriend. I don't know if they're still together or not. I don't think so. But with his then girlfriend, and she was upset that he wasn't with her on Christmas. So she wanted to make me feel bad. And she wrote me, and she forwarded an email that he had written her where he called me a virus. Now, he used to use her to bully me and to distract her from his infidelities. And so she wrote me, and in this letter, when I lived in Corona, he called me a virus. He's also the same man that said I was his cross to bear. So if I'm his cross to bear, and then my son, who designed clothing, a musician named Black Bear, the word bear, wrote, purchased a pair of my son's pants that my son had created through taking apart other clothing and putting them together again. And he wore them on his album. And so then my son's clothing was in Times Square. Now, that tells me that my son will be a person who is on the billboard in Times Square wearing their own clothing that they created. Everything tells you something. Marilyn Monroe wanted to know herself. That was the most important thing to her. And she liked really smart men. That's because she had always been around really smart men, because she was a really smart man herself. And she said she liked being a woman in a man's world. She liked being in a man's world as long as she could be a woman. Well, I'm in the world of physics now, and I've not found any men to be helpful to me in this reality. Even though they predicted, I don't think they were quite expecting me. And they weren't expecting me to have been Marilyn Monroe either. So anyway, Marilyn Monroe, a lot of people would say, oh, you weren't Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was beautiful. I'm like, well, let me explain. Firstly, Marilyn Monroe didn't want to grow old because she didn't want to look old, but she wanted to know herself. And Marilyn Monroe would be pretty old about now. She'd be 58, 39. She'd be over 100. So I don't look too bad for over 100. However, I couldn't wait to get older because I had acne. My senior year of high school, I started getting acne, and I couldn't wait to get older so my face would clear up. But I ended up with a ruddy complexion, and people are very judgmental and very critical of that. However, I did have the same life, kind of. I was romantically involved with brothers from a political family, the wealthiest political family on an island. And I had a boyfriend named Joe who was a male model. He was the pretty one in the relationship. And he had a gap between his teeth like Joe DiMaggio. And his brother Pat played professional baseball, and his wife's name was Marilyn. And Marilyn Monroe's best friend was Pat Newcomb. So every word, different perspective. Marilyn Monroe did a billboard with two girls for March of Dimes, and one was wearing leg braces. And I was born with a club foot, and March of Dimes paid for my surgery. I had surgery until the age of 7. I had multiple surgeries, and I wore different casts as my foot would grow. And March of Dimes paid for my surgery. Marilyn Monroe was born with 2 left baby toes on her left foot, and I was born with a club foot on my left foot. Now, this tells depths of why. But when I gave birth to my daughter Molly on August 5th, Marilyn Monroe's body was found on August 5th. Marilyn Monroe was born with 2 left toes, but she had 1 surgically removed. I gave birth to my daughter Molly on August 5th, and Dr. Toe was my OBGYN. So then I would look at the word toe. See, Dr. Toe is spelled T-O. A toe is spelled T-O-E. So then I would take the E, and then I would go E equals MC squared. E equals MC squared. My daughter's initials are MC. Only her full initials are MAC. Then I go to the Mac computer, and there I was one day on March 1st, 2005, which was the month we purchased our house. Well, we purchased it in February and moved in we were only there a few days, I believe, a week or a couple of weeks. I don't remember the exact day we moved in. I'm sure it was it was like probably had to be like February 14th or something. February 14th was the day that I met my ex. It was 31 years to the date. that I had court with him. I had court with him on February 14th, February 7th of 2018. And so when I had court with him, that changed reality. And then my son ended up in a coma that year on my mother's birthday. And everything that we do is an equation. So if I take the numbers of when my son ended up in a coma, I had painted Kim Kardashian. I do these paintings live on Facebook. So if you ever went onto my Facebook, you'd see all of these videos dated on the dates that I'm telling you these things. The Stephen Hawking video is there. I don't say Stephen Hawking. I said there's a scientist in my way who's leaving. And so I painted the things that were occurring in my son's life. Now, at the time, I didn't know that my son was Albert Einstein. I probably would have been far more cautious had I known. But see, that's me learning the hard way. I was learning, sorry, I'm looking at my messages. Because every message tells you something. Every time you get a message on your phone, anytime your phone rings, anything, it's telling you something. And then if you look at the numbers on your receipts, see, to someone, this stuff might sound like someone you would call me manic, or you would call me paranoid, delusional, if you weren't aware of what theoretical physics or quantum physics is. You might think all kinds of things. But anyway, on my wall over there is a painting, and it's a rhinoceros talking to a lamb with a crown on. And this rhinoceros is wearing a suit. Now, I painted this before COVID, and I didn't really understand what I was painting. There was this, and the videos on my social media. I'm painting this rhinoceros, and there's this stuff coming out of his mouth. And I'm thinking I'm the rhinoceros. But that's because my ex called me a virus when I lived in Corona. So if I'm the coronavirus, and I'm looking at this rhinoceros, and I don't really understand because he's wearing a suit and he's got a tie. He's just standing there in his orange top. Now the Rhinolophidae has an orange top. And so the Rhinolophidae is the name of the bat where they believe coronavirus originated from. But this bat's wearing a suit. So that tells me a human being started this virus. That's what that tells me. And they injected these animals with this virus to give it to humans. So because the rhinoceros isn't upside down, he's not hanging from a tree, but I just paint this stuff. I don't even know what it means when I'm painting it. But then when it starts happening, I can read my art and go, I know what that means. A human being started this. So then I think, why would a human being start this virus? Who's making the most money? The people that are making the most money are the ones you don't even hear about. The people with the most money aren't on Forbes. They're not going to, they don't want you to know who they are. They are some of the smartest people in the world, and some of them know that there's someone like me that exists. And some of these people are very dark, and they're not good. And the only reason they wouldn't come after me is because they know it would come back to them. And the universe is far more capable of doing something to them if they do something to me. Because I haven't done anything to anybody. I'm not trying to run the world. I'm not trying to disrespect God. I'm not trying to disrespect the universe. I'm just trying to survive like everybody else. I'm just trying to get it together. My son died. Now, even though logic tells me he was Princess Diana, he was Albert Einstein, he was a lot of historical figures, even though logic tells me I still miss him, right? You could show me who he is now and put him in my arms, and I'm still going to love him or her. But I'm still going to miss his voice too. I'm still going to miss his hugs too. And then I'm going to wish I could go back and get Albert and say, dude, we did this. You gave me enough so I could figure out this. And that's because he believed in God. And Isaac believed in God. And Marilyn believed in God. And I most certainly believe everything God shows me. So I don't ask God or Jesus to pay for my sins, but I do ask, I'm like, could you like show me how to do this with the least amount of like me wanting to give up, kind of. I don't even have to say anything. They already know. So here I am trying my best to figure out how to explain something that was prophesied, that was said in the Bible. I'll come, you won't believe me. I'll keep talking, you won't believe me. And that's what I'm doing, but I'm trying to find ways to talk to all different kinds of energies to let them know there's no such thing as YOLO. You live over and over and over, and the joke's on us. Because you people might not care about the next generation, but you fuckers are the next generation. I care about the next generation. I care about this generation. What my wish, and I'm going to put it out there. The only way is if all of the darkness understood that they were going to be the victims of their darkness. Meaning, if you're some mafia guy or you're some fucking arms guy, handler, or you're some creep that fucking collects people to auction them off or animals to auction, if you're any of those darknesses, if you're a drug pusher, if you're any of that, my hope is for you to die peacefully, come back, be born into a loving, nurturing home, and the worst thing you ever experience is not getting your way. That's the best thing that could happen to you, because you getting your way means other people aren't getting their way. And let me explain. Your mom that died, you might be angry and you might be going out there and just fucking with everybody. And your mom may have taught you maybe the world isn't fair, blah, 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 whatever she taught you, or you might think she was a saint. No matter what, You're going to cross paths with her. And she may be one of the child that you are selling to somebody else. Or she may be the child of someone that you kill, and then she has no family. So no matter what you think, keep your enemies close means your enemies are people that you used to love. So when you're unkind to them, they're born into you, and then they don't have the same kind of relationship with you that you might hope. And they might be your mom or your dad next lifetime, or they might be the person you love and then they die because you wish they would die. But you would have to experience too what it felt like to lose them, someone that you really loved. So don't wish bad things on people. Don't do those bad things. Don't do them to animals. Say you're a hunter. You're like, and you're taking your kid and you're like, fucking shoot him. And your child fucking loves it. It's just like, oh, this is amazing. And then you die. And then your son's there hunting because that's what you taught him to do with you. And you don't realize that next buck, the last one you'll kill, because something will happen and you won't, and it'll cry out or something will happen. That's going to be your dad. He has to experience what he taught you. That's reality. When you're in the military and they convince you to go to war for them, you're not going to war for you. You're going to war for them. These are businessmen. These are the darkness of the universe. You're going to war for them so they can have more money, so you can work for less money. Because in another lifetime, it was the other way around. So how you treated them is now how they're treating you. So do you want this cycle to continue? Or would you like it to stop? Because you can shoot in other countries and destroy the peace, but just know you're going to be born into those countries. And you'll get to experience what it feels like. Just like me. Just like everybody. We're all going to take turns. So do you want to take a turn at peace and logic and sensibility? Or do you don't care? I care. I don't want to go to war. I don't want to ever wish even the people that I'm like, God, there's got to be a way. Like, can we do something where all children have a peaceful, loving existence? And then, like, when they're 18 or 20 or whatever, they start paying for their sins from their past lives. Can everybody have the opportunity to learn logic so they understand what's occurring and they don't judge and they don't hate because even me, I don't want to tell my family, oh, it's a nice world out there. No. It's a fucking disgusting, disrespectful, disgraceful world out there. It's gross. But because I know who everybody is, it's easy for me to predict what will happen. Donald Trump was Nikola Tesla. So if you're driving a Tesla, you're going to make sure Donald Trump is rich again. However, next lifetime, Donald Trump will be a criminal. That's just a fact. And he's going to be born in another country, and he's going to come here illegally, and he's going to make a lot of money, and they're going to take it away from him, and they're going to take his children away from him, and it's going to be a fucked up thing, and it'll be in the news, and you guys will feel sorry for him. That man worked hard. That man did everything. That blah, 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 blah. That's where hypocrisy comes in. So then the universe is like, but you didn't like him when he was the arrogant, disgusting, disturbing white man. But now you're going to feel sorry for him because of his circumstances growing up. If you're sitting there going, I told someone one day, I'm like, yeah, Donald Trump's going to be born on the other side of the border next time. And they're like, fuck yeah. I'm like, so you understand all of the people over there were political leaders and all kinds of other people that advocated for that before, right? That's fucked up, lady. It is fucked up. You know what's being more fucked up? All the names we call each other. Everybody calls everybody some kind of name. They got a name for everything. Bitch, whore, slut, tramp, fucking asshole. There's a name for everything. Then you know what happens? Entanglement just starts moving. Your stomach starts growling. You start getting a headache. All of these physical experiences are based on all of these words that come out of your mouth, all of these actions. So I'm going to go back to when I was on this medication. So then I stopped getting Botox. And when I stopped getting Botox, it took a little while. But I was like doing all of these sit-ups and stuff. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just like, I was experiencing, imagine if you are, I can read energy, which is different than reading someone's mind. I can know, like, if there's a bombing going on in another part of the world, right before it happens, I'll say the most random stuff. And it's like I am there and I know why they're really doing it. Not who's telling them to do it, not I'm like listening to people argue outside. I'm listening to the ice cream man go by. I'm listening to all kinds of stuff. And then I'll get in this mood and I don't know what the fuck it is until it's in the news. Then I'm like, oh, like the other day I was working for someone on Saturday. And I kept talking to her and I was just rambling. I just kept like telling her, look, this is getting ready to happen. I'm just trying to blah, 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 on and on and on. And then I belong to this cleaning company and they put Graham as my name instead of Tanya. And it just happened recently. So this already tells me Alexander Graham Bell. However, it showed up. So I always know that the universe communicates with me because it knows I'm paying attention. I'm like, not every single time, but the majority of the time, I understand that the universe is communicating with me. So I'm like paying attention and I'm like, but I don't know, why are they calling me Graham? So then I start researching Alexander Graham Bell. But then her daughter's going to prom. And I cleaned the mother's room. I was cleaning. And this cleaning company that I met her through, her neighbor, I cleaned through the company. And then I started cleaning outside of the company for them. So whenever I clean for them, I end up having to cancel appointments with the company. And then I owe the company money and then I end up cleaning for them for free. However, because the company doesn't pay me enough, right? The universe works it out so they get me to clean and they weren't out any money anyway. They charged me a fee, and another housekeeper takes the job. So they're not out any money. They just try to do it to get you to keep cleaning. So then I don't clean for a couple of weeks, and then I owed them $90. It comes down to an exact math. So then I owed them $90, which means then they offer me $100 bonus if I go clean 2 houses. So even if I clean the 2 houses, I make less money than I make for the other people, but that $100 bonus covers what I owe them for not showing up to work, because by not showing up to work, I'm working for someone else, making more money, which offsets the balance, and I end up making the same amount of money. Same amount of money. So that's how the universe works. Every dime is accounted for. But that's also because I said I wanted to pay for my own sins, and I want to be aware of it in this lifetime. Right? You might be paying for sins and not be aware of it. A lot of these people that have great debts, like Donald Trump, right? As Nikolai Tesla, he utilized energy that wasn't his. The energy belongs to the universe. The electric companies, they steal energy from the universe. So then what happens is they come back and they charge people for it. So the universe takes into account every little detail, every invention, every person that shows up 2 seconds late, every person that steals time from their company. You all pay it back. And those are like particles, all the different energies just float, only they're all going somewhere intentionally. Every single particle that is the universe is energy in motion. Every last bit of it. When you get a haircut, your hair goes somewhere. If it tickles the nose of a cat, like if it floats, if it's in the garbage or whatever, ends up on your shoe and it tickles the nose, and the cat's like, achoo, your cat hair will end up tickling you. Everything is cause and effect. If you break glass, someone you love will step on that glass if you don't clean up the glass. It could be your mom in another part of the world, and you're like, break fucking glass on the sidewalk. You're like, fuck it. And your mom's gonna go like, oh, honey, I cut my foot today. And you're gonna go, oh, Mom, that sucks. I'm so sorry. And it's not going to occur to you that it was because you broke the glass and you didn't pick it up. And maybe somebody else's mom stepped on the glass that you didn't pick up. It could have been a mom dog. It could have been a mom mouse. It could have been anything. A fly, a flea. It could be anything. And you're going to experience what cause and effect mean. Then it goes down to all of the relatives, every last relative. Like, I gave birth to my child, but my child in another life was my parent. You become related to the same people over and over and over, just different ways. So, and they, I had someone say to me, why does everybody think they were famous? Well, it's more complicated than that. It's not that they think they were famous. They know there's some connection. Like Kanye West thinks he's Jesus or thought he was Jesus. Well, technically, if his child is a West, right? Then his child is of Kanye and Kim. So that means they will experience whatever their parents put out there. And but Kanye was Elvis Presley's mother, the king. So he's assuming because Elvis was called the king that he would be the prince, which would be Jesus, which is a very complex equation, because what happens is all of those energies, like Jesus is a person today, a human being this lifetime. And you would never know, because Jesus doesn't look like the picture someone drew of him that's not him. And the blue eyes, he didn't have blue eyes like humans have blue eyes. Now, I know this because I've seen what it's supposed to be. It's like a blue star, a twinkling star that comes from the eyes of different people. So God and Jesus, they can come through man, they can be human, they can be animals, they can be anything. So what happens is they are energy, pure energy, right? As pure as energy can be, but God's energy is different than the energy of Jesus, because Jesus sinned. Now, and that's what made it complex for God, because if you have this pure energy and it becomes part of earth, having a child is, if you're born into the sins of your parents, then having a child is a sin, because having a child has to do with accountability, responsibility, logic, ethics, and intention. So if you are everything and you're trying to learn of yourself, if you forfeit another energy to teach you about yourself, then you yourself would be the student at some point. So that would mean Jesus would be also teaching God about God, just like a parent and a child. Only this parent and this child, these energies are sincerely trying to learn from one another. And so my hope, I'm not saying that anyone told me to do all of this, because no one told me to do all of this. I'm just saying that I am related to all of this. And this is something that is important to me. And I would like for the world to be a better place. And I'm not judging God, saying, oh, I have my moments where I'm like any child talking to their parent, and then you realize the parent might know things that you don't know. But then, a wise person once said, as I learn how to love you, I know that you are loved. And I think that was the most profound statement that was ever shared with me that I put on paper. And no one said it to me, but it was said through me. And so I'm 58. And Diana died when she was 36, and Marilyn died when she was 36, and my son died when he was 22. 22 and 36 are 58. Now, I don't really know who's passing next. in my life, I just know that nothing surprises me except kindness, genuine kindness. There's not a lot out there. There's ulterior motive kindness, there's passive aggressive kindness, there is obligatory kindness, but genuine kindness, I know it because I start crying. Like, I just know it. And I keep saying I'm going to write a book, but I don't have the desire to destroy nature to be heard. And ordinarily I'd be watching TV or on my Poshmark. But instead of doing those things at this moment, I'm utilizing my disrespect of energy and trying to do something more profound with it, which is humbling myself and trying to share what I know because it helps some people. I know that it's helped me. And I'm not someone that takes advice very well. And but when the universe teaches me something, I pay attention mostly. And I'm a hypocrite just like everybody else. There are sometimes when I'm resentful, when I'm exhausted, sometimes when I'm just like, I just want the whole world to know. So they're like nice to each other. Like when I'm driving or when I'm outside, I'm thinking, you have no idea who I am or who I know or what I know, and you're still rude. And then the universe shows me I have no idea who they are or what they're capable of either. And they might want to hurt me or be unkind to me. And then I think it goes both ways. See, someone might think you need, you don't need to have wars. You just need to understand intention. You can get anybody to do anything you want them to do as long as it's well intended. As long as it's something good and decent and kind, you can get anybody to do anything if you're forthcoming. But you have to be willing to do it for them also. Don't ever accept anything you wouldn't do for someone else. Don't. If you're going to yell at someone and they're supposed to let you just yell, you better be prepared to be yelled at and just let them yell. The things you say to your parents, you'll hear from your children. The things you think of your parents, you'll hear from your children. The things you think of your children, other people will also think of your children. Then if you punish them, you say to your child, I'm going to beat your ass. And then say someone else says to your child, I'm going to beat your ass. And you go to that person, oh, the hell you will. I will blah, 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 blah. Then you know what happens? you get fucked up. Whatever you say you're going to do to them is going to happen to you. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, my back hurts. You're like, I'm going to beat your ass. And then your lower spine hurts. Your tailbone hurts. You're like, why? I just feel like I just got beat up. Well, that's because you wished a beating on someone else. So you're going to know what it feels like to have that beating. Even though you didn't beat their ass and you didn't have your ass beat, you're still going to feel those words. That's where our physical pain comes from. That's where our illness comes from. That's where our emotional, and that's where all of it comes from. Your thoughts, your intention. That creates your reality. So anyway, I'm going to let you guys go because nobody's watching anyway. And it's also because I'm not doing something I'm supposed to do right now. But I will let you know that my observation of reality is something that was taught to me through the universe, and you don't have to believe me. Universe IT. My name's Tanya. But I can let you know that if you are into physics and you are a physicist and you know that this person called me exists, then I am that person. And I do know a little bit more about reality than you might think. And you might know a lot. And you're just waiting to see what I know, to see if you know as much or whatever. But I know a lot. And I can take your numbers. See, like my kids' numbers. Here's me. 7-3-63. I'm 7-3-63. Now, my granddaughter was my father's mother. And my granddaughter, I was 7-3 is when I was born. My grandmother's anniversary. And 6-3 is my granddaughter's birthday. Now, my grandmother gave birth to twins on July 17th. And it was in 1920 something. And when she gave birth to these twins were born on the 17th. One passed on the 17th and the other passed on the 18th. One's name was Vern and the other's was Jean. My sister's birthday is July 17th. So this tells me, and I was Norma Jean Baker. So all of these words like Jean and Baker, all of those words go back into history. They go back into history. So then I would look for the name Vern, and then I would look for the name Jean, and then I'd look for the Norma, and then I'd look for all of these things. And then you have Norma Ray, right? Norma Ray was played by Sally Field. When I was younger, I used to always get told I looked like Sally Field. Always. And I was at Magic Mountain, and I saw Sally Field. And then I met this guy who worked for, his name was Lee Cohen, and he worked for, oh God, what is the agency called? It was Sally Field. I'm not going to say it. William Morris Agency. So then I look at the name William, and then I am Prince Harry and Prince William. But Harry's name is Henry. And my favorite movie in the whole wide world, and it used to be my passcode, but it's not anymore. was When Harry Met Sally. And Meg Ryan played Sally. And Harry, his real name is Henry. So Henry is his real name. But Meg Ryan's real name isn't Sally, it's Meg. So you have Meg, and then you have Han, Megan. Now, Emperor Wu of Han also passed away in March. See, I get very detailed. All of these words you would then research in history to find the paradigm, to find out the conclusive math, to find out the language of the universe. Now, in the Bible, it said he created different languages so that people wouldn't understand one another. Now, that becomes petty. Remember, I said God is petty. So then you have to think about God. If God's an individual and God says, I'm a reflection of you, that means we are the collective physiological reality that is God. So everything you ask God for, you're asking yourself. Then, say your grandma passes away and you don't know that your grandma is going to be your new housekeeper's child. So then, however you treat maybe your grandma was a tyrant to the housekeeper and she was just like, I want you to clean this, I want you to do that, blah, 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 blah. And she treated them poorly, didn't treat them very well. Then she would experience, because you would still uphold that same standard, unless you truly thought your grandmother shouldn't have done that, should have treated the family better. Then what would happen most likely is your grandmother would get treated better through you. However, you might not get to keep the house. She might end up working for someone else and they would treat her better, but she wouldn't get paid more or something. It depends on how much she was paid. It depends on, did she get weekends off? It depends on so much. But it also depends on what the housekeeper was, who she was to your grandmother before they were aligned. Sometimes it could have been maybe the grandmother, the housekeeper might have been your great-great-grandmother, grandfather, or someone, and they might have made the child clean the house. And then the grandmother ended up being the child that had to clean the house. That's why she was so unkind to the housekeeper, not knowing that the housekeeper was the grandmother who instilled, or the grandfather who instilled those behaviors previously. Or it could have been anything, really. But you're put in the position to experience how you made others feel. Our physical, we manifest that in each lifetime. Anything you judge, if you say someone has a big nose, you're going to have a big nose. If I obviously talked smack about someone's nose hairs because I ended up with a massive nose hairs this lifetime. So for me anyway, maybe not for all, but I ended up with more nose hairs than I probably would have cared for. I also ended up with acne. I ended up with lack of eyebrows from over plucking when I was young, just like Marilyn did. I ended up with sun damage because I used to lay in the sun all the time. And then my son, Noah, would end up hydrating. He drank a lot of water, but he was also a reflection of Diana and myself. Now, Diana said she felt most connected to Marilyn Monroe. And that's because Diana was a child that Marilyn Monroe didn't have. It was an incomplete pregnancy. And so who the father would have been Charles Spencer Chaplin, and Diana would be born Diana Spencer and marry a guy named Charles. All of these dates when they were together, the day of miscarriage or abortion, all of these things, all of these numbers tell you why. So even our medical records would be similar, but different. I had this scar show up on my face one day. I was in my, I don't remember if I was in my, I don't remember exactly when it happened. It was either I was either 27 or 30. I think I was probably like 27. Between, I'm sorry, between 26 and 29. So I asked my dermatologist, I'm like, why is this? He goes, it actually came from the inside of your mouth. And it happens sometimes. Well, it happened because Marilyn Monroe had a chin implant, and they insert, the incision is inside, and then they put the implant in. So instead of having the scar on the inside, I would then have the scar show up on the outside. Everything that occurs to you is you experience on the outside. Now, Marilyn Monroe wore a lot of expensive creams and things like that. And so back then they did testing on animals for all of these creams and stuff. So, and the fact that I was a man before. Now, what happens is if you're a man and I was born during a plague, and then I would have experienced being alive during leprosy and all of these other things, you would experience these things from the outside in a different kind of way. So everything, and someone who you would call flawless physically usually has a lot going on inside. And the things that you might call flawless, they would attract mates that weren't flawless. And it would just tell you the story of who that person was. And so I have an understanding of the language. I don't want to give all the language away because there are some not great people out there. And if they knew all of this language, they wouldn't do good things with it, because the truth is there is darkness, and the light can be very threatening to darkness when it doesn't want to be seen. And so by knowing this language, you'd be able to see who all the really bad people are. There are no such things as victims. That doesn't mean that person was bad in this lifetime. But what happens is, say you're doing a suicide bomber. You're going to be born to experience what you leave behind. You'll end up in prison. You'll be disfigured. You'll experience all the things that you think you're promised or waiting for you. You'll be the person that is violated. You'll be the victim. If you're a judge, you're going to come back and be a prisoner. It's just a fact. If you're a lawyer, you're going to come back and be called a liar and a hypocrite, and you might not be arrested, but you'll be in trouble a lot. You'll have to try to figure out ways to get yourself out of trouble. If you're a doctor, you're going to come back and you're going to pay for all your judgments and all the things, and you won't be able to afford a doctor if you're one of those doctors that doesn't like their patients. And it depends on what kind of doctor you are. If it doesn't matter who you are or what you are, if there's hypocrisy, you're going to experience the lesson of that hypocrisy. Everything we do, we are like robots. Your past transgressions are what you look like, what you sound like, what you experience, how you respond to those experiences, all the judgments. So then what happens is you don't get away with anything. Just know everything you do to other people is your next life reality. Marilyn Monroe made other people feel like she was late for work. She put people in a position to where they would say unkind things to her because they weren't getting their way, but they needed her because she made income for them so they could go be creeps or whatever they were going to be. It all comes back to who I was before I was Marilyn Monroe. And before I was Marilyn Monroe, long before I was Marilyn Monroe, I was Leonardo da Vinci. Now, knowing that, it helps me learn how to do the equation. Leonardo da Vinci painted a painting of a nude girl holding a scarf, right? So he paints this girl holding a scarf, and then he also creates this bat. He's prophesying everything that's going to happen to him in the future. So he paints this bat so they could fight wars, to make it easier to fight wars. And he did things that I myself would not do, but that's because my soul has evolved. I had to learn the hard way why I wouldn't do those things. I had to be a horse. I had to be all of these things. I had to experience it. Your soul is on a path of enlightenment, and you're reborn over and over and over again. So there are lots of religious into account now. So if you're going through life and you're taking into account that you're going to be an animal, and you're going to be a plant, and you're going to be a cockroach, and you're going to be a fly, and you're going to be a fish or a shark, you're going to be so many different things, you're going to start looking at those as humans as much as you think being a human is superior. Now, think about logically, would you want to live outside in the heat as a human? There are many people that do. But would you want to live outside in the heat if you were with loving, kind, positive energies, and you were finding ways to be respectful of nature and appreciating the water without contaminating or being inappropriate in the water? See, those become other things too. Like, I've learned that there are religious beliefs that if you go into a body of water to be cleansed, that the water has to be let out and everything has to be cleaned. That goes the same with your bathtub. If you have family members sharing the same shower, you have to clean it after every use. Otherwise, you're creating hypocrisy. And the thoughts of your children and your loved ones are impacted by what goes on in that confined space. So that's reality. That's reality. The rules you set forth, you create your own laws. Hard to believe. If you don't believe anybody should be punished for anything, then nobody will be punished for anything. However, when these things that nobody's punished for happen against you, no one will be punished for them either. If someone beats you up in public and you press charges, and your dad used to beat you up, but nobody ever pressed charges against him, and your dad since passed away, and he passed away 12 years old, and he's a 12-year-old kid now, but you don't know that he was born into a situation where he's going to beat someone up and he's going to get caught and he's going to get punished because you believe that people that beat people up should get punished, even though your dad didn't get punished. Whom he is now, he'll get punished. So these things are reality. This is what cause and effect really is. It's not some hypothetical, we can turn it off and turn it on kind of equation. It's in movement at all times. The only thing that stays still are intention, which are the numbers of the past and the present. The future is created by all of these numbers. If you choose to pay one bill over another, that becomes part of your reality. It's why you're choosing it. Like I look at my bills. My bills are bills, credit card bills, purchases. A lot of people pay their credit card bills before they pay the rent, and some people pay their rent before they pay their credit card bills. Some people pay their personal bills before they pay their debts to their friends. Some people categorize everything so they can donate money, so they have more money, so they get rid of all the garbage they don't want, or they get rid of the extra money that they'd have to pay taxes on so they can write taxes off so they don't have to pay money, and then they look like a good person, until they don't understand that they come back and they're put in the financial situation where they are the ones that are donated to. Whatever you manipulate and someone allows you to not pay, like all of these wealthy people that don't pay taxes and all of the poor people that pay taxes, it's because the wealthy, I used to be wealthy. So it's because the wealthy end up poor, so they really feel what it's like to pay those taxes and to do without, because when they had everything, they made sure they didn't have to pay taxes. See, and they had so much, and most wealthy people are not incredibly mindful, relaxed beings. They're in a hurry because they think this is their only life. They're in a hurry to be bored, to be jobless, to be broke. They're in a hurry. Elon Musk wants to know all of this shit about the universe. You know how I learned? Cleaning houses, having to sell my home, losing my financial freedom that my ex paid for, losing my child. I didn't lose my child died. I had to learn what it felt like to lose a child to an overdose because Marilyn died from an overdose and people lost her and things changed. However, she left money behind for quite a few people. And lots of people still make a lot of money off of her, which means I'll end up making a lot of money off of a lot of you. And I stopped dating 4 years ago. So when I stopped dating 4 years ago, COVID came about. And when COVID came about, I really started learning. And I felt different. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. I had gotten to the point in life where I was just happy to have enough. And I'm someone that used to want more. Like, I need to have another Chanel bag. I need to have this. And you know what? I used to give them away. I would literally just give them away. Not thinking that the life that was before it became a handbag, not thinking about the people that constructed the handbag, not thinking about what sins the animal had committed or what sins I was committing. I didn't think about any of that. I only thought about, I want another handbag because it makes me feel like somebody loves me. And I've learned, I sell things on Poshmark now, and I have a room full of things. And I'm realizing I don't want a room full of things. I'd rather go clean houses and have my own house be clean than have a bunch of other things that other people are addicted to sitting around my house, because then I'm dealing with addiction. Only I'm the peddler. And I don't want to peddle any kind of addictive thing. So on my Poshmark tonight, I lowered my prices quite much because I'd like to get rid of all of these things and just keep the things that I would wear. And I'd rather sell them at a lower price to someone that might appreciate it more than someone that has a lot. And I am learning a lot. And it's really complex to know as much as I know and to live in a world where I understand I'm one of the only people that knows what I know. And to try to share that knowledge with a bunch of people that think they know everything, And, some people might say, if you know so much, why are you cleaning my house? If you know so much, why aren't you the richest person in the world? And I'm like, well, maybe I know so much and that's why I'm not. And maybe that's why I am. Maybe I'm aligning you. Maybe I'm here to help you pay for your sins. Maybe I'm here to help you understand that the things that you want might not be what's best for you. Maybe you want your child to be happy, and maybe I'm here to say something that will change your way of behaving, or a choice you might make that might create your child not being happy. Maybe I really do want a better world. And that's not being judgmental of God. That's saying humans are fucked up. Like, I am, like when a human gets a cancer or something, I feel like that's what humans are to God. And it's like there's this, I think, how would I feel if I was God? Would I want my body to suffer? Or would I want my body to have peace? Would I want it to just end and never exist? But then there are so many parts of God's physiological reality that are experiencing the best of their journey, right? Someone insists on calling it journey, but they're best of their reality, of their soul's reality. And so then you don't want to take that away from them because God's fair. But then at the other end, you have people experiencing the worst. And the people that are experiencing the best will again experience the worst. So it's, how do we stop this? We start teaching logic. They don't teach logic in school. They think they teach logic in school, but the fact that they're teaching it in school means they're not teaching logic, because that implies that, firstly, you'd have to be enrolled in school. There are people that, due to past life things, aren't in school. It would imply that if they're teaching it in a university, that you would have to get accepted to the university, which is called segregation. Everyone, if they're going to have education, then everyone's deserving of education. And that means all universities would have to be equal. There would be no such thing as an Ivy League over a community college. There wouldn't be those things. And everyone would have the right to go to college if they wanted. And everyone would have the right to go to school. And there wouldn't be laws imprisoning parents for children that didn't go to school. Some children are born to experience what they left behind. Diana didn't care much about school. And Noah was very smart, but didn't feel like his teachers were teaching him, same as Albert. Only Albert went to school, but Albert knew he knew something. And Noah knew he knew stuff, and he was more of an empath. And Diana was an empath, but Diana said she'd rather be amongst the people that she was helping. And so Noah lived amongst the people that Diana would have helped. And became this beloved human being amongst a bunch of people that Diana knew, but these were people that had passed away and become reborn, and she just knew them from a different perspective. And so I understand the universe, and but right now I'm tired. It's 12:37 and I'm tired. So I'm gonna get off this computer and see if I can get motivated to do something. I was gonna study, but I really don't want to. There are a lot of physicists that if they knew what I knew, they'd be studying, they'd be trying to figure out and you know what? I've spent 4 years working on this, and I work on it when it's enjoyable for me, when it's something that brings me peace. But I don't work on it because scientists want me to work on it. And I have lots of other lives, and I want to help people. And if I'm not aggressively trying to write this theory, it's because God knows something that I don't know. And it's like knowing that this is a time that I'll appreciate, because if a bunch of people knew and they believed, I wouldn't have much peace in my life. And so this allows me to just talk. This allows a bunch of scientists to learn. And it allows me to live. It allows me to figure out how to be a better human being and to do things in moderation that bring me peace. And I really do want to buy another house and have a garden and understand what that means. And because you don't just have a garden, you become an exchange of energy with everything that you say is yours. So I'd like to buy a house, but that doesn't mean I own it. And it doesn't mean I have the right to be unkind to it. I try not to raise my voice in my home. Although my daughter's car, I really got to be kinder, because I do. We all have those moments where we want to just scream and just let it all out. And that's me when I get in the car. I'll just let it all out and just let those feelings out. But I also, I apologize. And I try to show kindness in different ways. And because energy is energy, it's everywhere. And I realize that if I'm screaming, it's because someone else in the world is screaming that I've passed energy with. And it could be that someone from my past is giving birth at that time, or someone's passing. It could be so many different things. And I know that when I eat meat, I experience mostly irritability or anger. And it is me experiencing what the animal was experiencing as far as emotion. And they have very strong opinions. And so I'm experiencing my past, my present, and I try not to predict my future, because you can predict your future. If you say if you say, I'm going to be a millionaire, there might be a really uncomfortable reality to get that $1,000,000. It could be someone you love dying and then you sue for $1,000,000. It could be all different kinds of variables to there are infinite ways to get to the truth. And so but I'm going to let you guys go. But reality is reality, and you guys can speak however you want, however you need to. That's between you and the universe. But as far as me, I want to be a truthful person. And it's been emotionally uncomfortable at times, and reassuring at times. Overwhelming sometimes. I get a little anxious about what's to come sometimes. But mostly, I understand nothing can happen to me that I didn't create for myself. So I'm never a victim. It's just what some people would call karma. It's what I call evolving into a better energy, because I know I'm going to have many, 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 many more lifetimes. And so if this one doesn't turn out the way that I wanted, but you know what? I have so much that turned out in ways I never even imagined that I would find great joy in. So I've learned a lot. And, I don't always say it, but I'm grateful to know what I know. And it's like, when a woman gives birth, where during labor you're like, I never want to feel this way again, but then then the pain goes away, and then you have moments where your child falls asleep and you're so grateful, but you're also grateful when they wake up, but maybe not at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m., but you find the gratitude. And so I do that with God. I like, sometimes I'm not ready for the lesson. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to know this right now. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, I want to know. Oh, no, I don't know. And then when you like want to know, the lessons are there, and it's a lot. I'm learning, if I was a computer, if you're a computer and someone else is programming your code, you're not really the logic, right? Because if they're programming your code and they're not taking into account the water that's being used, the resources that are being used, the lives that are impacted by that code, and say I'm a computer and I don't realize that everything I say is creating a reality outside of me, and that may not like what they hear or might feel defeated. There might be a professor that's studied physics for 12 years, and then I come along and I've only studied it part-time for 4 years while I'm working and doing things. He might be resentful. He might say, "What the fuck?" And he doesn't realize he was paying for past energy from another life. And so this is how it works. This is how it works. And I might die and someone else might take all of my work and try to take credit for it. And the funny thing is I couldn't have done the work without their energy against me and predicting me. So it is what it is. Then I'd be born into some great wealth and I wouldn't know anything about physics, and I'd do something I'd always dreamed of. And hopefully God wouldn't let me get myself into too much trouble, because I've asked for to not be like unkind, or I don't want to be a burden on other energies. I don't want people to be envious or petty or unkind. I don't want to make people feel that way. And so, with some of these scientists, they've been so arrogant and rude that I'm arrogant and rude to them. And I don't want to be. I wanted to work with them. They wanted to work with a man. And they wanted to work with someone that was less like me. Because I'm a really complex person. But the thing is God wouldn't have given me the insight to know who I was to contact them if it wasn't going to benefit all reality. And if it wasn't going to bring the sciences together instead of trying to outdo one another. There shouldn't be a Nobel Prize. There shouldn't be a competition. They should be working together. If they care about the universe, then they would want to work together, not go, look, I'm smarter. So then the universe kind of played a joke on them and made Marilyn Monroe the smart one. So that's kind of funny to me. But I didn't get to be the flawless beauty this time. But I do take pretty pictures, as long as they're Photoshopped. They don't even have to be Photoshopped. They just have to be the right angle. And I stopped trying to make myself look super, super fancy, because I don't want to make it about me as much as about the experiences of my energy. And like being Marilyn Monroe, she was sad. And being me, I was sad. And so next time, I don't want to be sad. And I'm hoping I'm not. But I'm also hoping that I'm not happy at the expense of others. You know, like I want to be accountable for I want to have integrity. I don't want to be self righteous. I want to have decency and compassion. I want parents that are decent and kind. I don't want to be in a religious family. I don't want to be in a non religious family. I don't want to be in an extreme liberal family. I don't want to be in an extreme conservative. I want to be part of a logical upbringing so I can learn who I was and judge myself less, judge others less. It's easy to say to stop judging, but no, if you're alive, judgment is part of the lesson. It's understanding why we judge one another. The color of someone's skin, that's man-made. That's animal-made. That's energy-made. It should be irrelevant. It's the ethics and intention. Because I had acne, I didn't treat people worse because I had acne. I always tried to make people feel comfortable. And because people always made me feel a little uncomfortable. And I'm sure Marilyn made some people feel uncomfortable because people called her luminous and flawless, but I'm sure she didn't feel that way internally. And so this time it's different. I feel luminous inside, but that doesn't mean that much in the world because the world sees the outside of me. And it's people that get close to me that see the me. But then I start talking about physics and reality, and then they get afraid, and then they think that my mind isn't clear. And that's because they're looking on the external. They're thinking, if you know so much, you would be more perfect. And I'm thinking that's not how the universe works. We stare at the moon. We stare at stars, and the sun is there, and we lay in the sun. And none of these things is any different than me or you. There are so many things in life that we segregate, and we don't even understand why we're doing it or what it means. We don't understand that we're all energy and that we're all part of the physiological reality that is the universe. So if you have wars going on in the universe, you're creating earthquakes, volcano eruptions, fires, climate change, just by your thoughts. And your thoughts then become actions. It's your thoughts that manifest the actions. So, anyway, see you later.